There are certain sounds that your brain is designed to ignore. A soft creak in the walls, the quiet shifting of wood at night, a faint tap somewhere in the distance. You hear it, but you don't listen, because listening means acknowledging it. And acknowledging it means asking a question most people don't want to ask. What made that sound? Because sometimes it isn't the house. Sometimes it isn't the wind. Sometimes it isn't harmless. And sometimes the sound is coming from directly beneath you, not the pipes, not the foundation, but something else, something that moves, something that waits, something that has been there long before you arrived. This is the story of a family who thought they had found a home until they realized they were just sharing it, because for 12 years, someone had been living under their house, watching them, learning them, waiting. The Carter house sat quietly at the end of a narrow suburban street. It wasn't remarkable. That was part of its charm. A two-story structure with faded siding, a slightly slanted roof, and windows that reflected just enough light to make it feel welcoming. It looked like the kind of place where nothing bad had ever happened, the kind of place where people felt safe. Marcus Carter stood in the driveway that first day, keys in hand, staring at it. He didn't know why, but something felt off. Not wrong, just unfamiliar in a way he couldn't explain. "You're overthinking," Elena said, stepping beside him with a smile. "It's perfect." She was already imagining their life there, where the furniture would go, how the mornings would feel, what it would sound like at night. Marcus nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "Perfect." But even then, he hesitated before unlocking the door. The house felt different at night. Not louder, not quieter, just present. Every step echoed a little more. Every shadow stretched a little further. Every silence felt heavier. Marcus lay awake that first night, staring at the ceiling. Elena was already asleep beside him. The room was still, completely still. And then he heard it, a faint sound, so soft it almost blended into the silence. A scratch. He frowned slightly, listened. Nothing. He exhaled. Probably nothing. Old house, wood settling. Normal. He turned over, closed his eyes. Then, there it was again, slightly longer this time. A slow, dragging sound. From below. Marcus sat up, his eyes adjusting to the darkness, listening harder now. Waiting? But just like before, it stopped. Over the next few days, the sound returned. Not often, not predictably, but enough. Always at night, always faint, and always from the same place, beneath the floor. Marcus mentioned it once. "Probably rodents," he said casually. Elena shrugged. "We can get it checked." But something didn't sit right with him, because rodents don't behave like that. Rodents don't stop when you start listening. And these sounds did. Every single time. 3 weeks later. Elena heard it too. It was late. Around 2 a.m. The house was silent. Then, tap. Elena's eyes opened. She didn't move. Another tap. Closer this time. Then, a slow, dragging sound. She turned her head slightly. "Marcus." He was already awake. "I hear it," he whispered. They both listened. The sound continued. Slow. Deliberate, moving beneath them. Then it stopped, and for a moment everything was still again, until knock, 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 3 times, directly under the bed. Elena sat up instantly. "What was that?" Marcus didn't answer, because this time he had no explanation. The entrance was outside, a rusted metal hatch near the back of the house. It looked old, untouched, forgotten. Marcus stood over it the next morning. The air felt colder there, still, like the ground itself was holding its breath. He crouched down slowly, placed his hand on the latch, and paused, because something inside him, something instinctive, told him not to open it. But he did anyway. The smell hit immediately. Damp, stale, heavy. He lowered himself down slightly and shined the flashlight inside. Dirt, pipes, wooden beams. Nothing unusual, Nothing moving. He exhaled. "See?" he muttered. "Nothing." But as he began to pull away, the flashlight flickered just once. And in that moment, he thought he saw something, a shape, far back in the darkness, too still, too upright, too human. Marcus froze, staring, waiting for it to move, but it didn't. And after a few seconds, he convinced himself it wasn't real. It couldn't be. He closed the hatch, but the feeling didn't leave. Marcus tried to ignore it. For a while, he succeeded. Life continued. Work, meals, routine. But the thought stayed. That shape, that sound, that feeling. So one morning, when Elena left the house, he went back. This time, he didn't hesitate. He opened the hatch, climbed down further, and looked closer. That's when he noticed it. The dirt. It wasn't untouched. It wasn't natural. Parts of it were flattened, pressed down, like someone had been lying there, regularly, recently. Marcus's breathing slowed. Then he saw the fabric. That night changed everything, because for the first time, the sound moved, not beneath them, but around them, through the walls, closer, more deliberate, more aware. Marcus didn't sleep. He recorded, waited, watched, and at exactly 3:17 a.m., the door opened, slowly, silently, and something stepped inside. And when Marcus finally watched the footage, he understood something terrifying. The figure didn't act like an intruder. It acted like it belonged there. Because the next morning, when they found the words carved into the wall, "I live here too," Marcus realized something that changed everything. They weren't being watched anymore. They were being studied, and whatever was studying them was getting closer. The house didn't feel the same anymore. It wasn't just the sounds. It wasn't even the message carved into the wall. It was something deeper, something harder to explain. The feeling of being observed, even in silence. Marcus barely spoke the next morning. Elena could see it in his face, the lack of sleep, the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes kept drifting, not to the windows, but to the floor. "Say something," she whispered. Marcus hesitated. Then finally, "He's still here." Silence. Elena's breath caught slightly. "You don't know that," she said, but her voice betrayed her. Marcus shook his head slowly. "I do?" "They didn't call the police, not yet, because how do you explain something like that? There's a man living under our house?" They needed proof, real proof, not scratches, not sounds, something undeniable. So Marcus made a decision. "We go down there tonight." Elena looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Together," he added quickly. Midnight. The world outside was silent. No cars, no voices, just the low hum of distant electricity. Marcus opened the hatch again, but this time it felt different. He wasn't checking anymore. He was entering. Elena stood behind him, gripping the flashlight tightly. "You first," she whispered. Marcus nodded, lowered himself down. The smell hit harder this time, thicker, more human. They moved slowly, carefully. The beam of light cut through the darkness in narrow lines, revealing pieces of a hidden world. Footprints, clear now, not imagined, not accidental, bare feet, human. Then they found it. Not just signs, not just objects, but a space. A section carved out beneath the house, carefully arranged, intentionally maintained. A place someone had lived. For a long time, old blankets layered on top of each other, plastic sheets, containers, food wrappers, some old, some not. And then the walls. Elena's hand trembled as she lifted the flashlight higher, because the walls weren't empty. They were covered. Photos, dozens of them. No, hundreds, printed, cut out, pinned, taped, all of them, Marcus, Elena, every angle, every moment, leaving the house, sleeping, sitting, watching TV, even moments they didn't remember being visible. Elena let out a small broken sound. Oh my God! Marcus didn't move because something else caught his attention. The markings, dates, notes, written in jagged handwriting. She cries at night. He checks the door twice. They don't hear me when I move slowly. Elena stepped back. No, 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 no. Marcus's voice dropped. He's been studying us. And then it happened. A sound behind them, not far, not distant, close, too close. A slow inhale. Marcus turned sharply. Who's there? Silence, but not empty silence. The kind that feels occupied. Then a whisper, soft, cracked, barely human. You weren't supposed to see this, Elena screamed. The flashlight dropped. Darkness swallowed everything. Marcus grabbed Elena's arm. Run! They scrambled toward the hatch, but the space felt different now, smaller, tighter, like it was closing in. Behind them, movement, fast, crawling, scraping, closing the distance. Elena sobbed. He's behind us. He's behind us. Marcus didn't look back. He couldn't, because something in him knew, if he did, he would freeze. And if he froze, it would end. They reached the hatch. Marcus pushed Elena up. Go! She climbed, hands shaking, breathing uncontrollably. Marcus followed, but just as he grabbed the edge, something caught his ankle. Hard, cold, unnatural. He screamed, kicked violently. The grip tightened. Then, a voice right below him, closer than ever. You're not leaving. Marcus slammed his heel downward, again, 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 until the grip loosened. He pulled himself up, slammed the hatch shut, and locked it. They didn't speak, not for a long time. They just sat there, on the kitchen floor, breathing, shaking, listening, waiting. But the house was silent again. Too silent. The police came the next morning. This time, they believed them, because this time, there was evidence, real evidence, disturbing evidence. They opened the hatch, went down with lights, weapons ready. Marcus and Elena waited outside. Minutes passed. Then, voices, urgent, confused. Then one officer climbed back up, his face pale. You weren't exaggerating, he said quietly. They found everything, the living space, the photos, the notes, the pathways. But what disturbed them most was what extended beyond it. Hidden tunnels, narrow passages, leading beneath the entire house. And possibly, beyond it, they never found him. Not that day, not the next, not ever. But they found out who he was, or at least who he used to be. His name had once been Daniel Voss, a former contractor, one of the workers who helped build the house years ago, before it was ever sold, before anyone lived there, before the Carters. Something had gone wrong. No one knew exactly what, but at some point, he never left. Instead, he stayed, hidden, forgotten, buried beneath the structure he helped create. The Carters moved out immediately, left everything behind, never returned. The house was sealed, investigated, eventually abandoned. But here's the part that never made it into official reports. Weeks later, one of the officers returned alone. Something had been bothering him, something he couldn't explain. He reopened the hatch, went down again, checked everything. And that's when he noticed it. Something new, something that hadn't been there before. A single photograph, placed neatly in the center of the space, clean, undamaged, recent. It showed the Carter house from the outside, taken at night. But that wasn't the disturbing part. The disturbing part was the angle. Because the photo was taken from inside the house, looking out. And standing in the window, watching whoever took the picture, was the officer himself. They never found Daniel Voss. No body, no trace, no closure. But sometimes, late at night, when houses are quiet and the floors feel just a little too hollow, people still hear it, a slow, deliberate movement beneath them. And if you listen closely, really closely, you might hear it too. right now.